Hey Pyro! When I first started out, I did not realize that you could burn so many more things other than wood. And I realized, oh, pyrography means way more than just burning wood. And I want to share with you today a list of things that you should not burn that a lot of people do burn, but you shouldn't. That's what we're gonna get into in this video. I'm Jannie, your pyro professor. This is Burn Savvy. Let's burn. First of all is MDF, okay? MDF typically comes like as your clipboards and things like that. You can see it's like all mushed together. It's just glued. There's the problem. The whole thing is pretty much glue and you're burning glue and people are like, how come I'm getting these headaches while I'm burning this clipboard? And it's because they're burning glue. Don't burn MDF. It's not good for anybody. Now, some people ask about composite furniture and burning that. Composite is basically the same as MDF. You really don't want to be burning it. It's made up of sawdust and things like that, just glued together with resins and chemicals that you really don't want to be burning. Another thing is PRESSBOARD. A lot of people will burn PRESSBOARD, but that is also just basically sawdust and wood glued together. Do not burn PRESSBOARD. You will mostly be burning the glue. It's really not good for you. Now, particle board can get confused with several other things, but this is another one I wouldn't recommend burning. There is the particle board that has more of the finer particles, similar to MDF where it's all glued together. There's little pieces. It's not as fine as MDF. It's not as smooth as MDF, but it's still a similar concept where it's just a bunch of little pieces of wood glued together. And then you have larger particle pieces put together almost like chunks of wood that are glued together to make a wood piece. And that gets confused with plywood. And here's the difference. Particle board has all of those bits glued together and the glue is intermixed with the wood. Plywood is a sheet of wood that is glued to another sheet of wood turned the other direction, glued to another sheet of wood, glued the other direction, if that makes sense. And the biggest thing is making sure that you don't burn through that layer to get to the glue in between. Usually we don't burn that deeply, so it's not that big a deal. So I definitely burn plywood. I actually use poplar plywood and birch plywood for practice art pieces. So you can find these little craft squares all over the place. I've got them in my Amazon recommendations. If you want to see those will be in the description. But the plywood is generally safe to burn. It is not safe to burn particle board, but it is safe to burn plywood. Again, you don't want to be burning that glue. I would also add, be careful with pallet wood. Pallet wood is super popular for crafts and DIY, and some of them are not treated. They are raw pine. I don't love burning pine, but lots of pyros use it. I used it a lot for years in the beginning, but most pallet wood is actually treated. So I really recommend that you don't use it. If you're going to use it and you don't know if it's been treated, just pay attention to how your head feels. And if you are starting to get headaches and stuff, that's probably a good sign that you need to stop burning it. Another thing I see a lot of people burning is chipboard. Chipboard is almost like cardboard, and chipboard is kind of hit and miss because sometimes chipboard can be made where it's just pressed together and it's heat that sets it, and sometimes they use resins and glues and things. So it depends on how the chipboard was actually made that would determine whether or not this was safe to burn. So you just have to be careful because you can burn paper, but you don't want to burn paper that's been glued together. Another thing with paper, this is wax coated. It's got kind of a shiny finish to it. This is also not good for burning. The shine tends to resist the burn, and it's also, when you get through it, it leaves those fumes, and those fumes, you really want to avoid those whenever possible. And last is paper mache. This is another one that could go either way. Paper mache is made up of paper, obviously, and some kind of adhesive. Now, sometimes the adhesive that they use is safe to burn, like it's made with flour and things like that. But if it is made with chemical glues, you really don't want to be burning that. So just be careful with your paper mache.
Now, leather is not on the list of things you shouldn't burn, but I want to talk about it for just a moment.
Leather is a fantastic material to burn. I absolutely love it, as long as it is vegetable tanned. And you can get it in colors that are vegetable tanned, but you have to make sure that it's actually veggie tanned, because if it's not vegetable tanned, as beautiful as this would look burned, this one is actually treated with different chemical dyes. Many of these dyes that dye leather have chrome in them, and when that is burned, it does release toxic chemicals. So you just got to be careful and make sure that you are actually getting vegetable tanned leather. It's often called veg tan, and not something else that you don't want to be burning. So I guess the moral of the story really comes down to, if it's glued, or it's got chemicals, or it's been treated with something, don't burn it. If this video has been helpful to you, it'd be really awesome if you'd hit that like button real fast. That just lets YouTube know that I'm doing an okay job, and it helps the video get in front of other pyros who it could help. I appreciate that. Now, there are lots of other materials that are fantastic for wood burning that are not actually wood. If you want to check those out, you can look at this video right here that you'll want to watch next. As always, happy burning and later, pyro.